Good morning, everybody. Happy Hump Day to you on this September 3rd, 2025. I have all of your stories for your rush hour ride to work. Tons to talk about. The billion-dollar lottery is still in play. We'll get to that. And, of course, our featured story, Perez Hilton, gives an update following his court case yesterday. He's, of course, battling Blake Lively, basically trying to find out whether or not he'll have to turn over any privileged information about sources. He's going at it alone with no legal representation. A real David versus Goliath. We'll get into that in a little bit. Plus the Bachelor cruise nobody asked for, and I mean nobody. We'll get into that. And then Epstein files may be released soon. Congress is back in Washington after a nice long vacation, and we're getting word that the White House is actually, and boy is this dramatic, pressuring Congress to not sign this bill that would release the Epstein files. It seems as though it'll be going ahead as planned. We'll get into all of that. So much to talk about. These stories and more starts right now on The Rush. Boy, wild time to be alive. Luigi Mangione appears to model for clothes for Shein. Now, Shein is one of the worst rated companies as far as human rights violations, stealing from other designers, plagiarism. I mean, it's like one thing after another. Hey, but the clothes are cheap, right? Fast fashion, bad for the environment, really just not good. And maybe the shirts made there, I don't know where this thing comes from. We're all guilty of it, right? Buying these clothes from other countries, but that's not the point. The point is, who the heck thought it was a good idea to put Luigi Mangione in this ad? Clearly, whoever didn't know who they were posting, but he, of course, is set to be, he's got a trial coming up for the alleged murder of healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. But there he is. I mean, you got to say what you want about Luigi. The guy's got a killer smile. More on him later. Bachelor Nation vacation at the sea. This was the big announcement.
Big news, Bachelor Nation. You're invited on the ultimate group date.
Set sail on the most dramatic cruise ever next November 2026. I have to tell you, I'm busy that week. I'm not going to make it. And no offense to The Bachelor, and I hope people bring their life vests, but this ship might sink as quickly as the ratings have for the Bachelor franchise. I'm telling you this right now, on the good Lord's Day, September 3rd, 2025. I'm telling you this right now. This cruise is not going to happen. There is no way. They are not going to sell enough tickets for the cruise. I wish them the best. I truly do. Boy, I tell you what, put a little extra chlorine in that pool. You know what I mean? Shock it. We don't need to spread any venereal diseases. I'm not saying the contestants have any. I'm just saying it's, I'm sure there's a lot going on in the open seas, put it that way. Either way, should I go? I guess I should maybe go. No. Listen, here's my thought about The Bachelor, and I don't mean to sound bitter about this, but it's insane. It's insane to me that, I haven't covered it much because it's just, I've had a bad taste in my mouth the last year from the show, but I cover the show. I mean, I've done recaps for a decade or so. They've never once reached out to me. I became essentially the largest independent content creator on YouTube covering the show, regularly getting 1 to 3 million monthly views, blowing anyone else out of the water as far as the amount of coverage for day-to-day activities of the show. Of course, I'm a little critical of the show and therefore, not a friendly creator in their eyes, but it's absolutely ridiculous that they wouldn't use folks like me and other folks, even Reality Steve and others, to incorporate them into more of the parasocial relationship. Whatever, you know what I mean? I've had to move on and plan a strategy for my content outside of the Bachelor world due to them not evolving, and keeping up with other really great reality TV shows that are out there. I wish them the best. Bachelor in Paradise, the finale was last night. I don't get it. I don't understand. I wish everyone well. I don't have much of a recap for it other than to say it's confusing. I know they're taking chances. We'll have to see if it comes back. We'll have to see if they can continue to try to get quality contestants to want to be on the show. But anyway, not exactly the lottery I would want to sign up for. And speaking of lottery, like that transition, no one matched the 6 numbers in the Powerball drawing, so it's happening again tonight, folks.
No one matched all 6 numbers in last night's Powerball drawing, so the jackpot will be at least $1.3 billion for the next drawing tomorrow. There were a few big winners. 10 tickets matched all 5 white balls, paying $1 million prize. Last night's numbers were 8.
All right, so who cares what the numbers were? Either way, if someone in my audience wins, remember, we're going to split it, right? That's the deal that we have. All right, you've consented to split your $1 billion lottery with me. Speaking of 1 in a billion, I gotta say, Billy McFarland, creator of Firefest. Now look, a lot of people think he's a scammer, a grifter. I tell you what right now, the guy's a visionary. He's ahead of his time. I've said this for I think a couple of years. I want to see him succeed. Maybe it's blind confidence. Maybe he's on the spectrum. Who knows? Not that that's a bad thing. Other than maybe he didn't meet the moment with his planning of Firefest. His vision was too big for the islands themselves. They couldn't handle his visionary. The point that I'm trying to make is this: Billy McFarland is not quitting, and I'm all about it. Here's what he had to say. Look at him getting recognized on the streets.
What happens when you sell your dream?
You go to jail.
You can either disappear or, well, we're about to find out, because I just sold fire.
Oh my God, can I take a selfie?
Yeah, real quick, I'm filming. You don't have a phone? Oh my God. Literally, I just sold Fire Festival, and now I'm rising from the ashes. And if I do this right...
So they're just there's people yelling in the background. I can't tell what's real, what's not, what's performance art. I love New York City.
I'm going to go way bigger. I want to own every single view on the internet. I've been chasing one idea for my whole life. The idea that views drive economy. My last brand hit 32 billion views, was the top of Netflix and other international news, but I was still thinking too small. Thank you. It's taken me 15 years of building brands, testing, failing, and creating viral moments to realize the most important thing. Views aren't just a driver of economy. Views are the entire economy. Views are the new currency. Now that I finally got it right, I'm launching the platform designed to power every single view online. This time, the fire doesn't burn out. It burns everything down and builds something new. The rise starts now.
I'm in. Sign me up, Billy. I don't even know what you're doing. No one even knows what's next. But I got to tell you, I just love it. I'm rooting him on. He's trying to pay back the people that he kind of defrauded. Listen, the difference between a mogul and Billy McFarland is just execution. So if at first you don't succeed, try again, Billy. So yeah, we'll have to see how that goes. What a wild time to be alive. I mean, how could you not want the guy to succeed? I don't even know what he's doing next, but he's a visionary. You know what I mean? Make way for the visionaries. Well, someone who's not a visionary is Laura Owens, but I got to tell you, Omar Serrato, the tilted lawyer, is laying haymakers on her in the case that's happening in San Francisco right now. She, of course, is trying to extend her domestic violence restraining order against Mike Maricini. Now, we in our audience have helped raise funds to verify evidence that Mike Maricini was framed for domestic violence. From all we can tell, we know that because Laura Owens used the same photo to claim she was getting an abortion in 1 month, and then months later, when she got dumped by this guy, I think a year later, she used that same photo from that same series to claim that he was committing domestic violence against her. And what did he get from it? Well, a long-term restraining order. But get this, new documents coming out. Here's what they're saying in the court documents. Owens' documented history of perjury and forged evidence invalidates her pleadings. Her claims must be tested under cross-examination. The court should deny petitioner's motion requiring her hearing on renewal to proceed as an evidentiary hearing with live testimony. In addition, respondent Michael Maricini requests that the court impose appropriate sanctions for Owens' abuse of process and refer this matter to the district attorney for investigation of potential criminal conduct, including witness intimidation and offering false evidence again. Now, we know Laura Owens sent me false evidence. She admitted to it when she was deposed, that she sent me the wrong, she basically forged medical documents, not the first time. But this, and by the way, I really do hope they do an evidentiary hearing because I can't make the initial dates. I'll be in Disney World. Well, I'm not canceling Disney World for you, Mike. I love you, but I'm going. I got to go take my kid on a couple, the water flume rides or whatever. Magic Mountain. You know what I'm talking about. I got to wear my rubber undies to get through that day. Either way. If they delay this, I'll be there. I'll be in San Fran, baby. Absolutely. I'm following this thing like white on rice, like flies on shit. I'll be all over this case. I've been over it for several years now. How about this? New bombshell information is coming out in the Laura Owens case. Petitioners professed reasons for avoiding live testimony. That's Laura Owens. To the extent she articulates any in her motion, do not hold water. Owens claims she feels traumatized or fearful of being in the same room as Mike Maricini. After obtaining the DVRO in 2018, Owens actively sought out contact with Maricini, messaging him repeatedly, approaching his family, even traveling across the country to confront his employer with her allegations. In September of 2024, while on a trip to New York, Laura Owens made an impromptu stop at Michael Maricini's employer's HR department to alert his employer that he had a DVRO issued against him. She is using these restraining orders to abuse what is supposed to be to protect a woman. She's using it on the offensive to make a man pay. Pay for what? Well, I guess pay for dumping her. And she's got restraining orders against Mike, Greg, Clayton. She tried to get one against me, and the buck stops here, folks. As you guys know, we are putting an end to this madness as she is set to go to trial in what? Not too long, for January, right? Where the state of Arizona is charging her with 7 felonies. Not just that, I will be a star witness. I've got t-shirts available on my site, which is attached to my YouTube channel, Dave Neal, Star Witness, right there. So again, it's an absolute wild story. We'll continue to give you updates as they come. And boy, does it make me thirsty to talk about the Laura Owens case. There's so much to get into there. Well, luckily, I'm so happy to be sponsored again by Tropical Smoothie Cafe. Start your day with a protein-packed breakfast from Tropical Smoothie Cafe. Oh, you thought they only had delicious smoothie options? You're mistaken. Pair a smoothie with a toasted breakfast wrap. Order ahead online and earn rewards with the Tropical Smoothie Cafe app. Do you like to customize things? Add more good vibes to that smoothie. Fresh add-ins like almonds, spinach and kale, chia seeds, or supplements like protein and Energizer. My favorite smoothie is the Peanut Paradise, chock full of 22 grams of protein. My wife's more complicated, so she likes the mixed berry Greek yogurt bowl topped with fresh strawberries and blueberries, which comes with a whopping 26 grams of protein. Make every day a getaway with our bold flavors and better for you pairings only at Tropical Smoothie Cafe. Tropical Smoothie Cafe, you're on tropic time now, baby. We're just heating up. We are heating up today, crushing it. You know who's crushing it? Perez Hilton, walking into court. These boots are made for walking, and that is what they'll do. One of these days, these boots are gonna subpoena all over you. What? Either way, okay, we're cranking. Perez Hilton walking into court in his floral courtroom couture. There he is. First look. He's looking, I guess the word the kids would use is he's looking fetch or snatch, one of those. Either way, good for him. Perez Hilton, a parody of what you would think a gay blogger would look like. I'm all about it. He's only a parody of himself because he's the original blogger, like he paved the way for folks like me to go out there and do my thing. So we're happy for him. Absolutely. He gave a speech outside the courthouse. Here's what he had to say.
So she made me relevant because Melissa Nathan told Justin Baldoni that I'm irrelevant, a has-been, a troll, her exact words. And now, thanks to Blake Lively, I'm a lot less irrelevant than in 2024. So once again, thank you, Blake Lively.
Very good.
He's crushing it. And listen, I give content creators, folks like Perez Hilton, I give them so many flowers, so much respect because I understand what it takes to stay on top of your game. I truly do. It is hard work. I mean, the guy's probably got a team. He's creating as much content as TMZ. He's been around literally forever. Perez Hilton, probably more famous at this point than Paris Hilton. I'd love to get him on the show and interview him, find out how it goes. But as far as what's happening in this trial, we've got some updates that we're going to get to. How about this? Miss Lively's need for the subpoenaed evidence overcomes the federal common law qualified reporter privilege. So what Blake Lively's side is saying is, our side, it's more important for us to get the information that Perez Hilton might have versus, I guess, holding up, the norms that, reporters don't have to give up their sources. If Mr. Hilton is entitled to assert the federal common law qualified reporter privilege, it must yield because Ms. Lively's need for the information outweighs Mr. Hilton's First Amendment interest under the specific facts in this case based on the three-pronged test. I'll tell you what the issue with this is. This reeks of Blake Lively thinking her shit don't stink. Thinking her life is more important and better than his. Now, Perez Hilton, he relies on his sources to, if he just gave away the information, the names of his sources, no one's going to give him any sources in the future. It's bad for his business. It's bad for the business of reporters to do their job if the sources can't trust they can come forward. I've never given up a source. And again, I don't do too much in the world of journalism. I'm more of a commentator, but when the time comes, when I need to lay the people's elbow down on a bitch, I'll do it. Looking at you, Laura Owens, we'll become a journalist. We'll expose you, do the investigations, right? We'll do it if we need to. Don't love it. But same thing with Perez Hilton. If he's operating and giving information to his audience, reporting on a public, interest case, absolutely, that's what the guy's got to do. So either way, he took to his social media late last night and kind of explained what comes next, because the judge the court hearing was today, basically for the judge to decide whether or not Perez Hilton's going to maintain that privilege where he doesn't have to give up his sources. Here's what Perez Hilton says he thinks will happen next.
Here's what's most likely going to happen, y'all. Judge Lyman gave the Wayfarer defendants a deadline of next week to produce all of the materials that he is ordering them to hand over to Blake Lively, including communications with content creators, which is what they're lumping me under. Even though I am a reporter, I am a celebrity reporter.
And by the way, I think it can fluctuate. You can report on certain things. You can commentate on others. You're a content creator. If you're an independent journalist, the term content creator, he's certainly not an influencer. Just like I'm not an influencer. I'm a content creator. I got to make content every day. That's what you do. But again, in certain moments you're reporting and in certain moments you're not. So therefore you should be considered a reporter. Boom, done.
I am a journalist who also creates content.
There you go.
I do both. Judge Lyman gave the Wayfarer defendants a deadline of next week to hand over all of these communications. If communications between me and the Wayfarer defendants exist, they need to be handed over by next week, which the judge asked Blake Lively's lawyers today about that deadline because the three-pronged test includes also exhausting all other sources. And it also includes that the information sought, the bar, I freaking am a lawyer. Like, I've gotten so much training. The standard is not mere relevancy. The standard is critical information, which in the supplemental briefing that Blake Lively's lawyers submitted today, they even acknowledged, the Wayfarer defendants said that they had spoken to Billy Bush. Oh, okay. Why did you all not subpoena Billy Bush? But you subpoenaed me. Seems retaliatory to me.
Yeah, I mean, I've conversed with Brian Friedman's law firm and I didn't get subpoenaed, so I have no idea. I, like many people, reached out for an interview. super basic. Either way. So I'm proud of Perez Hilton. I don't know him personally. I'd love to get him on the show. Maybe after this dies down, get an interview with him. If anyone has any connection with Perez, tell him I'm respecting what he's doing. And let me just say this: if Perez Hilton wins this this chapter against Blake Lively, it'll just go to show how strong the truth is when you're on the right side of a story. When you're on the right side of a story, by all means, you should lawyer up, because lawyers know a hell of a lot more than we plebeians do, but you like that term. But in this case, I'm proud of him. It's kind of funny to end on this image here. I'm proud of Perez for stepping up. I know he didn't want this stress that came from the subpoena, but I'm sure in hindsight, he'll appreciate what he's learned about himself in the process. All right, coming up next, we've got Epstein updates as the House Oversight Committee hears from multiple victims, and there are several big announcements coming up, which might lead to the release of the Epstein files. This story next. Okay, we have several updates with Epstein. The victims are coming forward, and several of them have not even spoken to the Department of Justice. How the hell did the Department of Justice not speak to the victims of Epstein while they're reviewing this case? This is absolutely insane.
2 hours with 6 of the Epstein victims, some of the bravest women I've ever met. They're very courageous. They shared their stories. Some of the ladies have shared these stories publicly before, but at least 2 of the women had never told their stories before, one for the very first time in the room. And so there were tears in the room. There was outrage. It was both, I would describe it as heartbreaking and infuriating.
The question people have is, how did they determine, the Department of Justice, how did they determine that no one else was working with Epstein, knowing all of these different victims exist? And here we have the Trump administration is fighting for its life to stop the release of the billionaire pedophile Epstein list. The Trump admin is now whipping Republican members of Congress, that is a metaphor, to block the release of the Epstein files, per Thomas Massey, a Republican out of Kentucky. Massey tells reporters he is confident they will reach the 218 votes needed, and says the White House is phoning House Republicans to encourage them not to sign on. So there it is. He tweeted, "It's filed. Your congressman can now sign the discharge petition to force a vote on binding legislation to release the Epstein files." Now, you guys might remember that we had, 6 weeks ago, rather than vote on releasing the Epstein files, Magic Mike Johnson over here decided to send everybody to recess, hoping that this case would go away and die down. Luckily, folks are still advocating for the justice of the victims. Here's an Epstein survivor who talks about deciding to speak out.
Why now? Why are you deciding to speak and to share your story now?
Because not everybody is getting justice, and that's not right. Just because you think that some victims in their mind got justice, that it's not right. The everyday person is out there, and that's me, and we're victims. You could be, your neighbor could be a victim and you don't know it. The person you pass in a grocery store and they're not talking. And I think that, like she said, power in numbers, even if I'm just counted as statistically in numbers as another victim, that's enough for me.
Now, I think what's interesting here is, like she said, seeing people come together and support these victims and understand that there's more to the story that's being hidden. And I don't care if it's Bill Gates, Bill Clinton, Donald Trump. I don't care who's a part of this group that may be, complicit or have done something illegal. We need to find that out, and they need to release the Epstein files, and that is going to happen. So as the administration continues to pressure for the, everything but that, we'll try to get the grand jury testimony. We'll try to get, no. Get the effing files, right? Because what did they do with Ghislaine Maxwell? The only person who's like the insider who's been arrested. Well, they sent her to a low security prison. She's going to get out on work release. She's going to be able to walk out of jail after committing such terrible, terrible crimes. More information. Here's Representative Summer Lee talking about the government itself is responsible for the injustice.
Today, in listening to these incredibly brave women who were once young girls, who were victimized repeatedly and have been repeatedly victimized since then because of profound levels of just injustice, profound levels of failure, systemic failure at every single level. They are here to remind us that the reason why we passed this motion, the reason why we had, even if it was just a little bipartisan support at the time, was because our reason for being here is to make sure that whether it is the government of the United States or princes or elected officials from other countries or wealthy billionaires, that no one should be above the law.
There it is. No one should be above the law. Thomas Massey, representative of Kentucky, and Ro Khanna, a Democrat, are getting together to do a bipartisan joint conference today where they're continuing to put pressure on getting this bill signed. This is a right step in, I think, the country coming together and saying, no, if we can agree on one thing and one thing only, it is that we are not being fed bullshit and that we're going to get down to the truth of this situation. All right, we'll be back this afternoon. We'll have updates on that with a lot of other content to cover. If you enjoy my content and you want to sign up for the newsletter, you can go to rushhourwithdave.com. I've got my newsletter there. September 13th, I've got a show in Nashville at a tiny record shop. I'm going to be doing a nice long set. If you want to come for a stand-up comedy show at a record shop, it's going to be super cool. That's September 13th. Details will be made available at rushhourwithdave.com. And other shows coming up. So stick around if you want to sign up for that newsletter. You'll get alerts when I'm performing in your town. We'll see you later. Until then, I'm Dave, and this is The Rush.